The confidence issues, the skin anxiety.
We can actually change societies as a whole. These are the future leaders.
Improving society in that way and enabling more young girls to thrive into adulthood.
Welcome back to another episode of Superwoman Isn't Real. And this is a really, really interesting conversation that we're having today. I have on the show today Jas Schembri-Stothart, and she is one of the co-founders of the Luna app, along with another wonderful female founder. And we're going to be talking all about the topic of teenage wellness. So when I came across Luna app and I really just found Jas, and then I started going into a bit of rabbit hole of research around Luna, the reason I felt like this was a really, really good conversation is, one, for me as a mother. I mean, I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. For everyone that has listened since the beginning, I have 2 girls, Jas, and I know this sounds a little bit irrational and parents might be like, what's she talking about? I'm actually already nervous about the teenage years. And that, I know that's crazy, but I have nephews and nieces that are 9, 11, and I'm seeing the changes in them and I'm realizing we're in a different world. So firstly, I was like, this is something I'm interested in even at this stage when my children are tiny. And also just like as a society as a whole, I feel like these are like years that come and go very fast. And I think back to my own teenage experience. You don't really know who to turn to. You go through the biggest changes. You're the most insecure you've ever been. You're the most uncertain you've ever been. And so I was like, actually, even on how we can support a wider society, this is an amazing conversation that we need to have. And it's an amazing cause that you're championing. And I just then went down the rabbit hole and read everything on your website. So, and I was like, we've got to talk about this. This is so good and so niche and so interesting. So let's start with you, Jas. So I love championing women on this platform. And obviously you're one of the co-founders.
Yeah.
You're well on this journey of entrepreneurship.
Yep.
Why did you want to be a founder? I say
Great question. And it wasn't the plan, trust me. So yeah, as you mentioned, Luna is co-founded by me and Joe, who is my business partner. And to be honest, I started my career in consulting, kind of fell into it just like many grads do. Spent 5 years there, and to be honest, just realised I think I had more to give to the world than, process and op models, and I had so much enthusiasm and energy. Didn't really know where and what I wanted to do, so decided to go and do my masters to reskill, meet some new people, just have some time to figure it out. So I didn't have £100,000 to spend on MBA fees, which is what I wanted to go and do. So I ended up leaving consulting and starting my own freelancing business. So working with different companies to do lots of different things, got the cash together, went to business school thinking, I'm going to go and work in venture capital or go and work for a scale up, really good salary. But actually, when I got to my MBA, that's where I met Joe, my co-founder, and actually where the idea for Luna came from. So it really wasn't part of the plan at all.
Though, is it? It never is the plan. It's like an idea sparks, or you meet someone that inspires you.
Totally.
And life goes in a completely different direction. I love 2 things there. One, that you went and did the MBA.
Yeah.
Because I always dreamed of doing an MBA and didn't, and instead just launched my business age 27, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Just like had no time to like take a step back. And I think an MBA is a really good place for people to start if they're just wanting to like shift their career a little bit. I think it's so that's cool. And I've also heard of lots of co-founders meeting one another on MBAs. It feels like the perfect place to go meet.
Definitely.
Not life partner, but your business partner.
Definitely. I mean, I think an MBA in the UK isn't really like a normal path. In the US, yes, I think it's very normal and almost necessary to sort of move up. But here I remember sort of telling my colleagues at Deloitte, which is where I was at the time, I'm going to go do this. Like, why? You have such a great career here. And I was like, I know, but I think there's just other things I want to explore. So to your point, there are people who do MBAs from all over the world, different backgrounds, and they've usually had 5 to 7 years of career experience. So you're just learning so much from other people. And yeah, truthfully, I never thought I'd come out with my own business idea, but actually as part of the MBA, there's a module called the Entrepreneurship Project. It's a bit like Dragon's Den meets Shark Tank, and basically you got to come up with an idea, find a team, find a problem and create a solution. So yeah,
this is so good.
It was good. And actually throughout the entire MBA, you always put in teams. You don't have a choice, but for this module, you could pick your own team. So I was like, right, let's get a badass like female team. So I was like, Joe, let's find 3 other women, and we did that. So we were a 5-women team from across the world, and when we were trying to figure out what the problem was that we wanted to solve for.
Because this is interesting, because you're not a mum yet.
Not a mum.
So it's not like you have teenagers and you're dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. So that was one of my biggest questions, like, what a problem to tackle, teenage wellness.
Yeah, well, I guess you're right, like, not a mum yet, but obviously I'm a woman. I've been through it, teenage, and I think, you know, those formative years have such an impact on people's life, and for me, definitely. And actually, we kept talking about the sort of female health issues we were experiencing at the time in our late 20s, the confidence issues, the skin anxiety, and actually, regardless of where everyone was from in the world on this group, we kept talking about actually, had we had the right support when we were younger, the right education.
All connect on this because we've all been through it.
And we were just talking about it for hours, and we were like, this is the problem.
Yeah, you're right.
We need to be educating and empowering people to have conversations and feeling good at a young age. So that's actually where the idea for Luna came from.
Perfect sense.
And it was mad. Like, when we were Googling, you know, health apps for teens, nothing was coming up. And we were like, what? Why has nobody thought about this?
Yeah.
And you'd think, you know, it's been more than 15 years since I was at school, someone would have got this concept, because we are starting to talk about fertility, starting to talk more about menopause, periods, but nobody had really thought about adolescent health. Yet they are, you know, a digital first nation. So
what struck me when I came across Luna is like, if we can change those 6 years, right? Like, if we're really talking traditional teen years of like 12 to 18, if we can change what children understand in those years and how they can talk about things and increase self-confidence,
definitely,
we can actually change societies as a whole. Because these are the future leaders, these are the future thinkers, these are the people that are going to be running organisations into the future, and it's an amazing problem to tackle from that perspective.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And I think we all have those stories that, you know, someone said something to us as a teenager, or we experienced it, and we hold on to those things that make us insecure or knock that confidence. Yeah. And that's, you know, what can hinder many women from becoming these amazing CEOs or inspirational people or whatever. So, you know, if we can help young people feel more confident, you know, have more knowledge. We know knowledge is power about their body, their health. Like, let them have more control, have conversations with doctors, with parents. And I think, to your point, we are improving society in that way and enabling more young girls to thrive into adulthood, essentially.
Yes.
So that's what we're all about.
That's amazing. And you're well into your founder journey now. So you have, obviously, your team. You're in the middle of raising a round of funding.
Yes.
How is that going? Because I think it's really nice to just hear everyone's individual experiences, and we've had everything on this podcast about the good, the bad, the ugly, but I want to know more, and I think people still don't even understand what it takes to go out and raise. Like, there's still a lot of like belief that you can just walk into like Dragon's Den and the investors are just sat there and you pitch and you come out with a sum, and this is not the process at all. It's very selective, very hard to get in front of people. So how has it been for you?
Yeah, it's been a journey for sure. So we are still a really small team. There's only 6 of us on the team at the moment, but we are definitely a lean, mean team. And we've raised 1.2 million in funding to date, and we're just coming up to the tail end of it. And we've done that in like two chunks. So the first chunk was really, we had this idea, you know, we need to hire some tech people, we need to get this idea off the ground. And actually raising the first chunk, yes, it was hard because nobody had heard of us. Why are we going to trust 2 consultants? It's a really icky area. It's very taboo. Teenagers are never going to use it. However, because we didn't have a product, we didn't have a team, fundraising was literally what we were doing all day, every day. And so we were able to raise our first chunk of cash, which was around £600,000. Like, it was a bit less painful than what it's been like now, raising the additional 600 when we have a team, we have a product, we have a business to run at the same time as trying to find investors and pitching. And
you're into it now. You're well into it.
Yeah, it's totally different.
And there's no extra time in the day to do this.
Exactly. And you've got a team being like, can you check this? Can you approve this? Can you? And you're like, I have so many things to do. Like, I'm going from like investor pitch to, you know, to marketing, to filming a TikTok.
Yes.
So it has been a journey. And I think it's even harder when you are truly building something that's not been done before. Because, okay, to some extent it's good because you have first mover advantage. It's really exciting. But investors also like benchmarks, well, let me benchmark you to other people. How much, have they raised, or how much revenue have they got? And so when you're asked, well, who can we sort of compare you to? There isn't really anyone clear to say, check this out and we're doing it better.
No, you're innovating, you're creating in a new space, and so you're going to have to be really bold.
Exactly.
People aren't going to understand it.
Totally.
And I think like that is a really important thing to know, is like, it's okay if people don't understand what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And that kept me sane for a number of years. It's okay if no one gets why I did this, because I jumped from corporate too, which does not make sense to a lot of people, because there's the security.
Totally.
There's a pension.
It's hard. It's hard. But I think it only gets harder. So I am glad that I did it when I did it.
Absolutely.
And, of course, I'd love to be on my MBA phase. It's a journey. But I go to work, I wake up so excited, stressed, but motivated to do this. And I wouldn't trade that in for the world, honestly.
And so now that you have all access, obviously now the app is functioning, you have real teenagers.
You do.
On the app, like actually consuming this content. I think it's really interesting because you probably have a lot of data now, right? Mm-hmm. What shifts are we seeing in the space of teenage wellness? Because I can guess at it, but I don't even want to put my assumptions out there. I want to actually know the inside. This is the insider info, right? I'm like, what are teenagers asking? And
I mean, some of it is, I would say, like probably quite similar to what we wanted to know when we were younger. Lots of questions and thoughts, and sadly anxiety around the period club. I haven't had my period. When am I going to have my first period? What is it going to be like? Am I going to bleed through my clothes? Like, we all had those thoughts. For me, it was a magazine era, so I'd go straight to the back and read the glamour, like Dear Doctor, and Luna is there to do that in a modern way. Digital agony aunt is what we call ourselves, but we get loads of questions on that.
Wow.
And I don't think that has hugely changed. One thing I have seen a huge shift in is skin, and the prevalence of really wanting this perfect glass skin and wanting to, just have this glowy, dewy skin. And I think a lot of that has been driven by, sadly, social media and the unreal expectations.
I have seen, I've seen conversation around this, and it's so good that you've brought this up. I've seen conversations around this. I've seen TikToks being made about this, about 12-year-olds walking into Sephora and purchasing hyaluronic acid creams and serums and things that it's like, no, you have the most perfect young skin that yet needs to develop. And there's just a lot of, again, misinformation.
Definitely.
And they think this is where they need to be at, and it's not. So, wow, that's actually a real thing.
That's a real thing. And I think, yes, having perfect skin has probably been something that makes people anxious for a long time, but I think it's definitely heightened now. And I think I only ever use a face wash, exactly, Clearasil or whatever.
Clearasil, that was it. Oh my God,
Literally.
Clearasil.
I mean, can you imagine now being like Clearasil? I'm like, no.
It was
or
Clearasil and then the most basic moisturiser, if I had time.
And no SPF, which that is one thing I'm like, at least people are wearing SPF now, because that wasn't something that they taught us at school. So that, and then I also just think mental health.
But do you not think it's hard to keep up with that as a woman? I'm struggling.
Even now, I'm like, I've got to do a 5-step routine.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, wow, my systems are really simple. I used to add a serum in here and
retinol, collagen.
Why am I not taking that? That's hard to keep up with as a functioning adult. I can't imagine the pressure and overwhelm to be feeling like you're 14 and I now need to build a skincare system into my morning before I go to school.
I know.
Because that's just a lot of unnecessary pressure when your skin doesn't actually need that. Your skin's developing in a very different way at that age.
Totally.
And I feel like that is quite sad, actually, that they're feeling this pressure that's just they don't need at this time. They've got so much going on.
Definitely. Yeah. No, completely agree. And
it's good they can talk about it.
It's good they can talk about it and know, really the basics you need to do is cleanse, moisturise, SPF. We're sort of there to say, do not use retinol, do not use these products. And if you are if you have got acne skin, go to a dermatologist and get stuff that's approved for your age group. So we're just really here to encourage the conversation. And so
anxiety around periods. I don't think that's ever going to change. And I think that's a normal part of being a woman and growing up.
Yeah, but let's talk about it more.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
And with Luna, when you ask a question, similar to these magazines, everyone can read it.
Wow.
And I think part of making people feel less anxious is making them realise they're normal for not having their periods.
But also, if you don't have the courage to ask the question, it's nice that someone else has done it, and you can just go back through the history of that chat.
Exactly.
Which is really nice. Exam pressure, I'm guessing that's still huge.
I mean, we did a report recently, and school is the number one cause of stress to our community. So that hasn't really changed. Self-esteem and comparison culture sort of scored quite high up there. But yeah, school and pressure to succeed, pressure to prove things to their parents, their carers, pressure to do well.
But how crazy has comparison culture become now? I mean, I think about this all the time. Like, I had quite strict parents. I was not allowed to attend every party, let me tell you. My dad was like, no, one on, I had a quota that I could attend because they were just very traditional and strict. And so I remember not being able to go to a party, but it was fine because my cousins were over and I had my sister and my brother. We had the best time at home, and I literally did not think about it until Monday when you go back to school. Now you're at home feeling miserable, isolated and lonely if you're left out of something.
Scrolling, probably looking at the stories. Yeah.
That didn't even exist for us. Like, it was like, people could talk about it, but you hadn't seen it.
Yeah, totally.
And that's quite hard even as an adult. Like, if you're feeling isolated or left out of a situation and you see something, and that can be really triggering. And when you're not even emotionally mature enough to process those feelings, comparison culture, I think, has gone bonkers and is so damaging. I always think about teenagers.
And I also think, I don't know how you found this as a female founder, but I also sometimes struggle with comparison culture myself. Yes. And
oh yes, definitely.
Like, that, oh wow, like they're doing amazing things, or
well,
they just raised.
I said to you at the beginning, I said, well done on your raising journey, and you were sort of like, yes, but, and I went, no, well done on your because I really agree. And I still, look, I'm never perfect, I've got better, would be like, oh, but her company's growing so much faster than mine. Oh, but they're doing such cooler things. Oh, but how did they get that collaboration? It's so hard. And that's why I wanted to do this, to be like, actually, we're all really, really similar.
Yeah. And I think teaching it from a young age is like, it is, I think naturally we're always going to compare, but I think remembering
your journey is different.
And what we can bring to the table and what we've achieved. And I think if we instill that from a young age, we can keep working through life, like remembering that, whether that's at uni or college or whatever you choose to go on to do. But yeah, I mean, I'm actually off Instagram now because I was like, I needed a break.
Oh my God, it's amazing. That's an amazing decision. And I think as a founder, you have to do that from time to time and especially as a mum, I'm finding I have to do that from time to time because it's just sometimes it is just too overwhelming. And that's actually one of my questions for teenagers. Obviously social media, I feel like we can talk about this at length, but I always say, the girls aren't going to get a phone. Like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no way I'm going to give them a phone. And then you start to realise, and I'm seeing my niece and nephew, that is actually not realistic. They will be given a phone at some point just for safety. Like, text me when you get to school, text me. Like, kids have phones now. We have to be honest about that. And actually, if you don't give them a phone, then what's the repercussions of that and how they're feeling? But digital detoxes and the whole thing around this, do they work? Do they not work? What should parents do when it comes to giving a teenager a phone?
It's a really good question. And to be honest, I think that could be a whole podcast episode in itself, because I'm speaking to parents all the time because obviously, it's
a big question.
It's a big question. And I think everyone has lots of different opinions. And to your point, you take it away and it makes something more craveable if you think about, alcohol and all of that, like when you were younger. And so I think it's a real tough one. And again, to what you said, if you don't give them a phone, their friend might have a phone, so they can still access stuff.
It's so hard. To then be
exactly.
On it, right?
I totally agree. And so, to be honest, I really don't have the right answer. And I think it's probably down to every
case by case.
But I do believe in at some point they are going to get a phone. And I think if it were me, it would be teaching them how to use it sensibly, the risks, enabling them to have an open conversation if they've seen something weird, or because when they do get to a point of having a phone, I think it's important that they're able to recognize what's right and what's wrong and what's pressure and what's real, what's not real.
And seeing you have a healthy relationship with your phone, right? Because if you as a parent can limit the time on your phone and can come off Instagram and share that with them and go, actually, mummy's not on social media right now because I'm finding it's really not working for me. If we can just start to demonstrate through our own actions, which means we have to start being self-critical, which is unfortunately what parenthood forces you to be in every area of your life. Like, my kids will point out flaws in me without meaning to. And they're not doing it in a mean way. They'll just go, Mummy, you're still working and it's dinner time, right? So then I'm like, whoa, okay, that's not normal and I need to stop. Like, you know, so they are amazing magnifying glasses, I always think, on your own.
It's true.
On your own habits. And I guess that comes into just showing them through example.
Yeah, it's true. And I think it's what they hear in the household. And, you know, people say the way you talk about yourself, your children hear that, and completely can see where you're coming from. But it's not easy. And I do think even if it is a social media free household, there are other digital alternatives, safe platforms like Luna. There's some great fintech platforms to help teach young people with money, save money. And so I think, you know, if
digital has a place
if it's a trusted, positive platform, and we have seen tangible improvements and impacts to mental health, to anxiety, to confidence through Luna.
So monitoring the apps that they're using, having like some sort of like open communication where you can log into their phone every now and again and just check what their phone use has been, because you can now actually check time spent on apps and things like that, which I think as a parent, again, it just gives you facts. So you're not acting out of fear, like, oh my God, what are you doing on that phone? You can actually just check the data and go, okay, pretty good.
Totally. And I think I was speaking to another parent who was saying, as I built trust with my teenager, I started to slowly remove like the restrictions. You know, she proved to me, actually, she was being honest with what she was watching and seeing. And I thought, oh, that's really like nice, you know. And as she got older, it reduced. But again, it's up to every person. And I'll ask you when I hopefully have children and say, oh, what should I be doing?
You don't even know what your kids are going to be like. And this is the hardest thing. You can never prepare for this. You're not doing anything right or wrong because you actually don't know. Like, I dream of being like so close to my kids through those years and having such a closeness and bond and tightness. And I, you know, dream of my kids being like, oh, but mummy, I don't want to drink. That's so not cool. It's kind of gross that you guys drink, you know. Like, you hear kids like now talking like this. Like, but mummy, that's so disgusting that you drink alcohol. Like, why would you do that? And they'll be like, oh my God, you're like gorgeous. I love this. But that might not be what I'm dealt. You know, I might be dealt a kid that really wants to rebel and break rules. And that might just be their journey and their path. Not a good kid, not a bad kid, just that's their journey and path. And so a lot of this stuff you can't even plan for. So I really empathize with parents because you have to deal with this on a week by week, month by month, who their friends are. You can't control this.
You can't control that. Alongside every other responsibility that motherhood brings in your own career in life. I mean, yeah, it's
I don't want to scare you off having kids completely.
I have a little Luna. I have a 2-year-old.
Yeah, you do have your first baby.
Keeps me up at night. So no, I'm completely inspired by women who do it all, and genuinely, that's not me just throwing that word around. I'm like, how do you do it?
It's just such a challenge. So I think that So social media, so we see that teenagers are on Instagram. I mean, TikTok is the main platform now that teenagers are using.
They're not on Instagram.
They're not on Instagram.
Not really.
Okay.
I think parents are on Instagram.
Yes, I'm on Instagram.
we're on Instagram. And to be honest, like at the start, I was like, yeah, they're on Instagram. No, they're on TikTok. They're on Snapchat. I think these are the main ones, really. Yeah. And they are 100% not on Facebook. Like I even say that word and they were like, Grandma, get out of the room. And I was like, because I used to go to schools and be like, hey, like, what do you use? No, like, Twitter. And I was like, oh, okay, like, we're taking that off the slides for the future.
Oh my gosh, wow. Yeah, I mean, Facebook now, I think the minute we saw our parents enter the chat on Facebook, we all left the chat. The minute they're like friend requesting you on Facebook, I was like, get me out of there. I could not get out fast enough. Okay, and then the other thing is obviously the evolution of social media. We don't even know what the next platform's going to be, and it changes fast. So patterns and trends are going to change fast.
Definitely.
Are there any changing trends you're seeing? So anxiety, we almost expect, right? Like we expect there to be an element of anxiety. I feel like mental health has really entered the chat.
Definitely.
And that is wholly positive, because even for adults, I think we're forgetting that like 6 years ago, maybe when you were in consulting, I was in banking, you couldn't just go up to your boss and say, can I have a mental health day?
I don't think it was even a thing.
It wasn't even a thing. And it's changed so fast. And obviously I run a company in this space, like fitness space, and mental health intertwines. But now we're talking about it almost like it's been around forever, and it hasn't. And that trickled down to teenagers.
Absolutely.
are they talking more openly about?
100%. Yeah, they are definitely talking more about it. I mean, to the fact where it's Mental Health Awareness Week this week, and our brand.
What a good time to be having this conversation.
And it's almost like we planned it. And our brand ambassadors, teenagers, were like, they came together and created a video of each of them giving mental health tips to the Luna community. This was without our social media team being like, hey, we have a brief for you. Like, they rallied, they created it. Wow. And they were happy to openly like share their experiences and what they thought or feel helps them. So I think, you know, to answer the question, like, are they talking about it? Yes. And I don't think there's any shame or stigma around talking about it. And I think there's a want to help others across Gen Alpha, Gen's Alpha. So yeah, it's very different, I think, to when I was growing up.
It's very different. There's a real generational shift, and sometimes it's almost becoming to a point where, like, it's talked about so openly that sometimes I'm also wondering if the alternate is also true. If we over-evaluate ourselves.
Almost.
So like, if we're over-evaluating, it's okay to have a bad day, but you don't need to like diagnose yourself with anything like a bad day.
Totally.
Because we're a generation that just had a get up and get on with it attitude. Yeah. And that also has its benefits. Like, I've seen that work in many cases where actually we can push through as well. Yeah. And we're more resilient than we realise. So I don't know where we're going to end up and what the balance of that is going to be, and actually in 5 years' time where we're going to be with it. But it's good that it's even a conversation, I guess.
Definitely. And I think so much can be improved just by talking about it, having a conversation with mum, dad, friend, teacher. And I think with Luna, that is what we're encouraging. You know, we're not saying everybody needs to go and seek specialist support and help. And actually, like, our platform doesn't really go that
might be
far.
The support, though.
Yeah,
the support might just be asking the question.
Exactly.
And knowing,
you're normal.
This is normal.
Exactly. I think there's so much.
There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with my mental health. It's actually really normal to have a week that's really rubbish, and that could be hormonal cycles.
Exactly.
Like, think about how your hormones fluctuate, and actually, like, your periods when you're a teenager, I feel like that was the most volatile period of my life, because it really does affect you. And then by the time you're in your 20s, you're in a rhythm with it.
Yeah.
And then by the time you're in your 30s, you're just like, oh, there it is again. Yeah. It's just over. Like, you're like,
exactly. And when we get these teenagers being like, I really want my period, I just want to go to them, like, honestly, it gets to a point where you're like, oh, it's so annoying. It will come, like, don't worry. When you've got it, like,
that. Yeah.
So yeah,
and it is stressful, and you do, like you say, like,
you worry.
Some, you know, your bodies are changing, and you're comparing, and you're confused, and other girls are talking about it, and it's like cool to have it, or it's cool to not have it, and like, it's just like it is, you know, and the brains are underdeveloped at this point, and that's the biggest thing here, is that, like, they're overthinking things, which we did as well, 100%. And that's normal.
And that's what we're here to say. It's normal. Others are thinking it. Us as older women have thought it, and you are okay.
Is there anything that any piece of advice that you would give teenagers now, being in the position that you're in, having all of this insight, hearing all of, because you are literally like an ear to the conversation, right? You're listening, you're seeing, you're listening, you're seeing all the trends and things. And like, now obviously you're at this stage in your life. Any advice that you would want to give that maybe even a parent can just review and give?
I've got loads I want to say. If I had to whittle it down to one thing, I think the piece we talked about, comparison culture, and just try your best, like, not to do it. I think what we see on the outside of people, how people are acting in terms of their confidence, or even what we see on social media, is like almost like never true. And we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, how they're feeling. So don't try and be like that person, or try and compare yourself to that person. I think stay true to you. Yeah. Do you. And that will just serve you so well in the future. I think if you don't want to don't follow trends. Like, you don't have to do that. You know, if your hair looks different, like, probably somebody's after it and wants that hairstyle. You know, if your body shape is different, somebody's probably envious of that. And I think in the moment we don't realise that. Do you know what I mean?
It's that stage of life where you want to blend in.
Totally.
And what you realise is that when you're at this stage of life, you want to stand out.
Exactly.
And so being yourself now becomes the superpower.
Definitely.
Whereas then you can't recognize it.
I totally agree.
That's exactly, I think that is really valuable advice. Like, that is it in a nutshell. Like, I want to go, like, hug that girl that's afraid to be herself and go,
100%.
One day you're going to win.
Exactly.
You're going to win just by being you, because you are, like, the fact that you're this unique, you're this thoughtful is going to be really special.
And stay true to that.
Yes.
Stay true to that.
Yes, that's it. That's the advice. I love that. That's actually, like, I think perfect, because I often think about myself as a teenager and I want to just go give her a hug.
I bet I have these conversations with women all the time who are just like, oh, why did I dwell on that so much?
Hard on myself.
So hard.
Why did I try to really hide who I really was?
Yeah. Or it takes so much of my mental capacity, like worrying about how hairy my legs were, or that my eyebrows were really thick.
Everything
or
was changing so fast, and every girl was going through it.
Yeah, and everyone, was allowed to do different things at different times, and but stay true to yourself,
and it all works out.
It all does work out.
It all does work out.
It does.
And I think that's why the 30s, by the way, are just like the best decade, because so far in my 30s, I'm assuming that you're like about 30.
I'm in my 30s.
Oh, okay, great. I was like, I hope it's 30.
Yeah, no, I am.
And I feel like your 30s are really magical for that reason, because you fall into an inner confidence.
Yeah.
Your 20s can be, I think, still trying to fit in, still trying to find your place, and it does all work out. You're going to get to a place where that shines through. So what is next for Luna? Obviously, you've built this platform. How many users are currently on using the app?
Yeah, so we are tipping up to 80,000 users, which is really amazing. And it's so great to be able to go back to all these investors who are like, no one will ever use this app. I'm like, we've built an iconic brand that you just go on our TikTok and teens like, we love this platform, like bring it to the US. So it's really good to know that we've built something that they love, and that's because we have co-created with them. So 80,000 on the platform, but we're aiming for 200,000 by the end of the year, and then we want to go millions. We want to be in the pockets of teenagers across the world.
Teenagers are going to be on their phone anyway. For me, the question then becomes, we need to put better options on their phone.
Exactly.
That's it. Because as a parent, what it ultimately comes down to is, you're not going to stop them having a phone, and you're not going to stop them being on their phone. So how do we just encourage more things like this to be on their phone?
I would love Luna to be on every phone that's bought at a Vodafone or an EE or whatever.
You're putting it out there.
Yeah,
so who knows?
I'm manifesting that.
I'm big fans of manifestation on this channel.
Exactly.
I haven't realised already.
You heard it here first.
Yes,
so that, and then we're obviously trying to grow our parent community as well. So that's why I was so delighted to obviously be invited to speak here. Parents are a huge component of the success of Luna. We have all these brand ambassadors, but if we didn't have the parents who enabled that, then that wouldn't work. And obviously the product, has to be approved by parents as well. So for us, it's really building that parent community, especially women, fathers, anyone who's really looking after a tween or a teen. So I think
we've spoken about the communication between parents and teenagers, but the truth is, your teenagers will not come to you for every question, and that is the bottom line.
Yeah.
And magazines are no longer the thing.
Yeah.
And
it's TikTok. That's where they're going.
And TikTok is the thing. So what becomes the alternative? Because there is misinformation.
Exactly.
There is so much misinformation. And even for us as adults, there is misinformation. Like the stuff I sometimes see about, and I talk about this a lot, the founder journey and how glamorous it is, and I'm on a private jet flying to an investor meeting. I'm like, this is not what the founder journey is.
I know, you're like, Photoshop is a great thing.
It is grisly, it is like working long hours, it is behind the scenes 100%. Chaos. Like, there is not like, it can be glamorous for sure. There are parts of my week that can be glamorous, but 80% of my week is not glamorous at all.
Yeah.
So just, there's misinformation for us. Of course, there's misinformation for teens, but we're developed enough to understand.
Exactly.
That doesn't quite sound right or look right. So, amazing. Thank you so much for your time on this podcast and for sharing all of that insight. We always like to, obviously we say Superwoman isn't real. The reason for that is because I think especially as female founders, are trying to do a lot and we're trying to do it all. And sometimes the balls drop. That's happened to me many times. And then I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to stop trying to live up to this persona because it is actually crippling. So let's just be a hot mess for a minute. And but in that sentiment, I do believe like there are things driving us that are unique and individual to us. And I love this for teenagers because we have those unique traits developing in us in those formative years. What would you say is your unique superpower that has got you to this point and is going to get you to the next stage?
That's a good question. I would say my unique superpower is being able to be a bit like a chameleon. And what I mean by that is that I think I can level with teens and they see me and they think, oh yeah, Jas is cool. Dare I say the word cool, or an icon in terms of what they say. So I think I've got the ability to like talk to teens, but then also speak to parents.
Will you come over and like coach my teens? That's incredible.
They might actually be like, she's weird, get her out. But then also speak to parents. It's a totally different way of speaking to people, and then also then switch to an investor, and then so I think my superpower is being a chameleon. So far, I think that's what it is,
and I think that's essential as a founder. I think to have that self-awareness to adapt,
and just how you are. I'm quite energetic, but trying to dial that down when I need, or rally when I have to. Yes, exactly,
absolutely.
So I think that's what mine is.
That's a brilliant one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jas. Thank you for like shedding some light on what you're doing. I think it's a really worthwhile cause. I think it will inspire people to like, if they are looking at championing something, especially in the wellness space that has not been touched yet, like just going for it, because you jumped and you're scaling. I know you're like 1.2, you're whispering, but it's 1.2 and that's exciting. And I will be watching.
Oh, thank
as a
you.
Parent.
Thank you so much.
I'll be hoping this is on my daughter's phones when they're teenagers, because it's going to be a challenging and interesting time. So thank you so much for being part of this conversation. We always share, obviously, details about Luna in show notes. Jas's Instagram handle. If she's back on Instagram, we'll have to check. But we'll have the Luna handle if you want to check out the app, and you can find out more there. But thank you so much.
Thank you.